Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. What? And Hivelings as my co-host likes. We are going to discuss Raw Nitro, and this week we have In Your House 3, WWF's pay-per-view. Well, actually, it's an event, because they had like 5 of these. And we will be discussing that. But we're going to start off tonight by saying, I am the mystery host, the ruler of all hosts, joined alongside my golden powers compatriot himself, the Hive Father, the Golden Warrior, the Golden Champ, Isaac Bell. How you doing, Mr. Anti-Smooth Champ?
I'm good. Very good. How are you? Things are going great right now. Well,
Hey, Isaac, speak up a bit. I can't hear you.
I said, things are great right now, man. I am chilling. It's been a good day. Waiting for the Impact show to pop up online so I could watch that. But other than that, I'm good.
Cool. All right, well, Isaac, we are going to get into these freaking results.
Okay.
I hope you enjoy I hope you enjoy today as much as I am. You probably are going to enjoy it as much as I am. History, man. Just remember that.
I do like history. It does show on there. I found a live stream for Impact.
That's great.
No,
all right.
It's better to watch it in the morning.
Let's watch. Now, this episode of Nitro had 4 dark matches.
A lot.
Yeah, they did this.
Again, they only have, an hour, right?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, 4 dark matches. So, this was, this was State Pit Patrol, Lieutenant James Earl and Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker versus Colonel Robert Parker and Dick Slater.
Not gonna lie, these guys sound familiar.
Well, you might know Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker as Dwayne Bruce. I doubt it.
Yeah, no, that still doesn't sound familiar.
Robert Welch? Nope.
No.
Dick Slater?
The name sounds familiar, but no.
He was known as Dirty Dick Slater, Mr. Unpredictable Dick Slater, the Rebel Dick Slater.
It's not very...
Let's be honest, no one cares.
Yeah, I don't think anybody does either.
And the State Patrol defeated Robert Parker and Dick Slater.
Okay.
Dark match, Randy Savage defeated Zodiac.
I bet that was painless.
Do you know who Zodiac is?
Hang on, I'm about to find out. Oh.
Yeah. The Barber. Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Randy Savage defeated him. Arn Anderson defeated Dave Sullivan.
Okay.
He was the supposed dyslexic brother of Kevin Sullivan.
Dyslexic.
Yeah, that was the thing. And the last dark match was, this is where we get to talk about one of your boys, Latino Heat. Eddie Guerrero defeated Dean Malenko, and this was a dark match, dude.
Wow, how is this not on the main card?
Of
course, well, what I'm looking at longest match on the card.
Well, let's be honest. Since obviously, yeah, this was the longest match on the card. Let's be honest. Since this match wasn't on the main card, obviously we had a big action-packed card, right? We saw the American males, Marcus Alexander Bagwell, aka later to be known as Buff Bagwell, and Scotty Riggs, defeated Harlem Heat, Booker T, and Stevie Ray with Sister Shim to win the WCW World Tag Team Championships. So the American males won the championships. This was Buff Bagwell and Scotty Riggs, who would later be NWO members.
Sounds like that would be a big deal.
Yeah, Harlem Heat had just won it 24 hours before, and they lost it to the American males.
Oh. Sounds like somebody was trying to prove a point.
Next, we saw Paul Orndorff defeat Johnny B. Bad, and Johnny B. Bad had just won at the pay-per-view.
Talk about killing momentum.
And then we saw Ric Flair, defeat Brian Pillman, and these are all. But these last three matches were actually pretty good.
They're all under 10 minutes, so they must have gone pretty fast. Then again, I feel like people were like, well, it's Ric Flair. We don't care how long he's wrestles as long as we get to see him.
We had a lot of segments and post-pay-per-view coverage. So, this is, like I said, this is the third episode of Nitro, and we're just getting off of a pay-per-view.
So
and a lot of
been like a post-NXT episode, like where they mostly cover, like a post-takeover episode of NXT.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, yeah.
There's like, they have matches, but it's mostly like a recap of the night before.
Yeah.
That's literally what most of it is.
And Arn Anderson, Randy Savage, Eddie Guerrero, and Dean Malenko were all on the card. They just were in dark matches. But I mean, you look at the card versus what was on TV, and that Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero match, it was a tryout on TV, not on TV, which means what we're going to be getting in the near future.
So,
So,
now I think about it, I've been there back in this time. It was probably a dope show. It looks good. People were going crazy after that. Well, who's heels and faces in the American males and Harlem Heat?
Obviously, American males.
Heels?
American males.
They were the heels?
Uh-huh.
Oh, well then, never mind. Because that was back in the days where people threw stuff.
Yeah.
People were like fans were like the stuff throwingest fans on the planet. They didn't care, especially in WCW. They didn't care. I'll never forget watching Goldberg, one of Goldberg's DVD. It was like he was fighting Hogan, and somebody threw like a full Coke with like ice at Hogan during the middle of the match. I was like, wow, y'all really didn't give a shit. Y'all really didn't care.
They really didn't. All right, Isaac.
Great.
This was a pretty dope card, I'm not going to lie. Especially for 1995. This was the dark days of wrestling. It was a pretty dope card. But with that being said, are you ready to hop into WWF and see how they fared? Are you ready to see how Monday Night Raw fared against Nitro? I couldn't hear you.
I imagine it was better. I like to believe that anyway.
Let's jump into the match. The first match we had is the 1-2-3 Kid, aka X-Pac, versus defeating Razor Ramon.
Hey, is that big upset everybody talks about?
Yes.
Is that the one?
Yep, and that was the opening match.
Hmm. The way they talk about it made it sound like it was later.
No, it was in '95. It was right. He was on his way out at this point.
Oh, it's on his way to WCW?
Yeah. He was starting to be on his way out. He wasn't out yet. And this was the opening match. This was a big upset. So you imagine, like, watching the videos and the fans. This match was shocking.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I bet.
Razor Ramon just lost to a guy that has not been able to win for weeks. And he got a win over Razor Ramon. And Razor Ramon sold it so well.
Well, he really did, though. I found it awesome how he got him, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was going for that Razor's Edge. He countered him. Rolled him up. Made it look easy.
And that was the first match. That was also the second longest match of the night.
Wow.
All right, next match.
I see it. The $1 Million Corporation.
Kama and Tanaka, or Tatanka is a big name, with Ted DiBiase, defeated Savio Vega and Bob Holly, a.k.a. Hardcore Holly.
Well, I knew he was around this long. I didn't think he was around this long. I think he came up like 98. There.
Nope, he was there. This match, really wasn't a big deal, but it was a good way to get Ted DiBiase booed and Savio Vega displayed.
Best Savio Vega match I ever saw. It was Savio Vega versus the Ringmaster, or as we would all know him as Stone Cold Steve Austin. And what was it? Caribbean strap match. That's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, this match right here was, it was bringing in some new blood. It was bringing in some new blood. So it was a decent match. Nothing spectacular about it. The next match we had, however, was John Pierre Lafitte defeating Brian Walsh. Brian Walsh was a jobber. That was plain and simple.
Oh, PCO. Huh.
Yes.
He is still wrestling, apparently. Or unless I'm thinking of somebody else. Not MJF. Oh, no, I'm not thinking of MJF.
Who, Brian Walsh?
Yeah. He's somewhere wrestling right now. No, PCO. I'm talking about PCO.
Oh, yeah,
Someone out there wrestling right now in the Indies.
Yeah. PCO's still wrestling.
Yeah, see, that's what I figured.
John Pierre Lafitte did win the match, and then we get into this was a pretty quick succession match. I mean, nothing big happened here, but then in the main event we saw Owen Hart and Yokozuna, yeah, you heard me, with Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji at ringside. Yeah, we had that going on. Defeated Men on a Mission, King Mabel and Sir Mo.
I imagine they beat the yeah, that was way after. Undertaker was on hiatus. It must have been on hiatus.
Undertaker was on the card last Monday on a dark match with Shawn Michaels and Lex Luger.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, the Men on a Mission failed their mission because they lost the match to Yokozuna and the real heartbreaker, Owen Hart. I know you heard that little tag name for him.
No, I heard it.
But this 1 hour show led us to the main event, and Undertaker will be on the show after this.
No, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. So next week we'll be talking about Undertaker. Alright. And Yokozuna and Owen Hart were the tag champions at this time. So they
weird tag team.
That is a great tag team though. Like Owen Hart.
I imagine it looked great, but I'm just saying, just like when you hear it if you're not watching it.
Well, they were both anti-Brett. They were both anti-Brett, and that's a lot of where that was.
Yeah.
So they had like a, we hate the same guy, therefore we're going to team up and, you know. So next we're going to go into the pay-per-view of the evening, or for the weekend. It was WWF In Your House 3 from the Civic Center. And the first match we had was Fatu defeated Hunter Hearst Helmsley. We all know who that is. What's that, Isaac? You're going to have to get closer to your phone, dude.
No, I know. I know who that is. That was way before he became the guy we all know and love. Yeah, both of them, actually. Well, one of them we kind of tolerate at this point in his career. Well, one of them we definitely love. The other guy we tolerate.
Well, yeah. In the next match, we saw Savio Vega in a singles match versus Waylon Mercy.
I'm looking at this guy. His name used to be Starship Eagle. Wow.
Yeah. Who, Waylon Mercy?
Yeah, Starship Eagle used to be his name.
Golden Warrior. Enough said. So yeah, this is
Oh, come on, mine's outlandish. It's not as outlandish as that. Come on.
Hi, Lloyd. This is this is Savio Vega had a good match. I mean, for what it was, and it was 1995, so it was a good match.
I feel like even if you were not bad, but if you were like I feel like anybody put on good matches at this point. Like if the crowd was into it, you had a good match.
No, heck yeah, it really was. And
back in those days, I imagine it wasn't as technical as it is now.
There was a lot more scientific wrestling, but the pacing was about the same. I mean, watch a Roman Reigns Raw match, watch a Shinsuke Nakamura Raw, SmackDown match, and it had about the same pacing. I mean, as far as the pay-per-views, they did go more out, but in 95 it was still kind of leaving that technical, scientific style and starting to, this was pre-cruiserweight. This was still when they were doing a lot of the, mat wrestling and power game.
Yeah, they were saying leave all the flying around to Japan.
No, at the time, no, Japan didn't have no flying. They were doing death matches. This is 95, man. This is the high peak of the death match. They were freaking hitting people with light tubes and exploding electrified barbed wire and landmines and shit.
C4.
Yeah, C4 on drum cans, man. Because why not? Die in the ring. That's how you go out. You die. You blow yourself up in a wrestling match. I mean, that's.
I gotta send you. I'm gonna send you the link to that Terry Funk match.
Okay, that's fine.
Unless have you already seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it, but I'll watch it again. I don't mind. You can send it.
No, I'm gonna put it in the group.
There was really only one title match. Our next match was Psycho Sid. Vicious defeated Henry Godwin. This guy was around, and he was a jobber from get-go, man. This guy's a jobber. Psycho Sid picked up a good win here. It was an entertaining character match, but nothing impressive about it. There's nothing that impressive.
I can't imagine. I just can't imagine that, like, being okay with being a jobber. I know you're getting a good paycheck.
He wasn't getting no Stone Cold paychecks, but or no for an Undertaker paychecks. But I guess if you're on TV and you're making a steady contract, why not? Do what you got to do. I mean, it's not like he's a Kevin Owens or anything, and he's just doing this.
It's just wouldn't sit right with me, knowing I could be better.
Well, yeah, but this was Henry Godwin, dude. There was nothing to get better at unless they went to WCW, which he'd be a jobber there. Yeah. Now, the next match, I think, is more of the pacing. British Bulldog defeated Bam Bam Bigelow. Again, you got two big guys. Bam Bam could fly, though, so you had that. and you had the ground game of the British Bulldog. They had a good match. It was a good brawl. And that's one of the big things that you did see in these days is the brawling. You saw power, you saw the brawling, and you might have got an attempt at a wham bam thank you ma'am.
Yeah, probably.
But, it was a decent match. British Bulldog did pick up the win. Bam Bam was, at this point, Bam Bam was not on the high card. British Bulldog, as a singles guy, was pretty good on the card. But then we got into the fifth match. Dean Douglas defeated Razor Ramon. We've already talked about what Razor Ramon's was doing at this time.
Giving the young guys a show.
Yeah. Dean Douglas, did you I know you know who that is now. And, there really wasn't anything big. I mean, it was another surprise win over Razor Ramon. At this time, he was jobbing out some. He will get some more wins before it's over, so don't feel bad about that. The next match, we saw Jean-Pierre Lafitte versus Bret Hart. And Bret Hart, the Hitman, did pick up the win, man. Throw him on his ass, pile driver, sharpshooters. Yeah, I know. Great match by Jean-Pierre Lafitte gave Bret Hart a good match here. He was dominating for a while. But then, yeah. Then we had the pay-per-view. We had Diesel and Shawn Michaels defeating Yokozuna and British Bulldog to win the tag titles. British Bulldog was substituting for Owen Hart, who hadn't arrived at the building. Owen Hart appeared out of nowhere during the match and was pinned, thus this creating controversy, which would be dealt with the following night on Monday Night Raw. And Shawn Michaels was the Intercontinental Champion at this time. So, I just wanted to get that out. Isaac, can you pull in closer to your phone, man?
I'm sorry. I was watching highlights of that exploding deathmatch.
Dude. Come on. I
apologize.
If I'm the professional, you've got problems. I mean, so that was pretty much it. Raw had its pay-per-view. WWF had its pay-per-view, and we saw Raw Nitro. And Raw.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like after this, it was only going to get better. Well, obviously it did for one company. One company, it just kind of...
I'm not going to lie. Unlike last week, because the last 2 weeks, I feel like Nitro, episode 1 and 2 were great. But I feel like post the pay-per-view, this Nitro was very...
Well, because like I said, that's how it is. And then, this is going to be weird comparing it to modern NXT, but that's like how it is now. Like, NXT put on a fire takeover. Because I defy somebody to tell me a bad takeover they've seen recently. Like,
I have never seen a bad takeover, dude. NXT is really like... NXT would make like a good New Japan, like crossover, because that'd be fun. I'm sorry, NXT is great. Triple H gets his way, we probably will see that eventually. But, that's neither here nor there. These 1 hour shows, that's what they were at the time, 1 hour. Raw and Nitro were both 1 hour marks.
Well, see, you got TakeOver. I'm saying, the reason why, I know, like, this week it seemed like it was because, like you said, it was right after a big pay-per-view. Everybody had to calm down, you had to readjust. Everybody who was probably at the show, unless you worked the dark match, you're resting. Why? Because you just went through a hellish match on...
And the best match on both cards was freaking... Well, I get it, but they should have been on there. Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko should have been on the card.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna tell me that you can put a freaking two tag teams nobody's even heard of on the main card, but you can't put Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko on the main card.
funny how that was the longest match on the card itself.
Yeah, it was a dark match. Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko went over 10 minutes, and you're telling me... But I get it. They were experimenting with them with the crowd. That's what that was. They weren't trying to, like, booster them on the show. They were just experimenting.
Still.
Yeah, I get it.
You know, it's still kind of, like, I get it. I get what you're saying, but it's still kind of amazing how, like... I just look at where we've come from. The one thing I really like about this, like, you see where you've come from, you know?
Yeah.
We see what professional wrestling was before.
This was 10 years before Eddie Guerrero won a title belt.
I know. That's crazy. That's crazy.
But again, he wasn't on Nitro. He was on the Dark match. He was a live show. And they were doing a lot of 3 to 5 dark matches a night. I get it. They only had 1 hour, and they booked an 8-9 match card.
Yeah.
But you're telling me they couldn't have at least slipped that match on the main card, or at least put it... Because they only had 3 matches on the main card, and four dark matches.
Match of the main... You would think, you would have hoped those segments were, like, super long, because the rest of your show was, like, what, 10 minutes?
They were.
Those matches were under 10.
And we did get Paul Orndorff and Ric Flair on the card, and Arn Anderson was on the dark matches. So, I mean, you got the 4 horsemen.
I feel like, so you feel like it kind of balances out there, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, you got the 4 horsemen on the card.
Yeah.
And as you know, the night before, Arn Anderson was interfering in Ric Flair's matches and fighting Ric Flair.
Right.
So, I mean, but this episode of Nitro was... I mean, there was no Hogan. There was no titles on that show other than the tag titles.
I imagine there was no Dusty either.
Yeah. But, I mean, you know, it wasn't bad. I mean, yeah, WWF may have had a lot of who the hell are you, but their card felt more solid.
Yeah, cause I feel like, because around that time, especially in WWF, well, with Hogan gone, you had to have... Somebody had to pick it up and put it on their back, and that's, I feel like...
Get closer to your phone, man. I can't hear you.
That's where Shawn and Diesel came in.
Yeah.
They had to come in there and run with it.
Yeah, I mean, you had Bret, you had Shawn, you had Yokozuna, you had Owen Hart, you had...
Savio. You even had Savio.
You had Sid Vicious, Brian Pillman. I mean, their talent. I mean, not even considering who they were later, you knew who these guys were, and they were solid.
Yeah. They were very solid.
And you had the 1, 2, 3.
Mind you, this is all pre-Austin.
Yeah, this is all pre-Austin.
Pre-Austin and Rock.
Pre-Austin, Rock, and HBK was hitting his high marks. This is when he was like, this would be like him at a secondary title level. This is Bret and Owen and Yokozuna feuding.
Yeah, this is like pre-Shawn Michaels putting on matches of his life. Not that he already wasn't, but still, like more so.
Yeah, and I'm saying, man, you had a lot more names like Bret, Yokozuna, Owen, Shawn, Diesel, Razor Ramon, and Sid Vicious. You knew who these guys were already. They've already been established, and they've only been around, like, some of them have only been around like 3 to 5 years, if not less. So, I mean, there was a lot of names in this that were not even top guy yet. You had Triple H, who was there, losing matches because he was a jobber at the time. Well, mid-card.
That is true.
This was before the curtain call.
He was a mid-carding jobber.
Yeah, this was before the curtain call.
He was the Sami Zayn of WWF at the time.
Yeah, he really was.
You know he's really good, but he's not elevating. He's not going to get elevated from where he's at right now. Yeah,
he is the Finn Balor of this time because it was Raw.
Yeah, that's probably a better comparison. Y'all knew how good he was. We're just like...
And I'm not saying Finn Balor is the greatest thing ever. He's good, and there are people on the roster that are better.
Yeah.
But I feel like that.
You're just looking at where he came from.
Well, I'm not just looking at where he came from. I'm looking at, because if you look at it, he actually had a better WWE run than he had a New Japan run, because in New Japan he was a light heavyweight. He was the founder of the Bullet Club, but big fucking whoop. He didn't sell T-shirts like AJ and the Elite did, and he didn't win the world title like AJ did.
Yeah.
He's had the Universal title, even though he had.
You gotta remember at the same time, who was hitting their high mark too.
I mean, yeah.
Tanahashi was always wrestling like his life.
Okada, Naito came up during that time. I mean, you had a lot. But what I'm saying is that you had, he was only a junior heavyweight or tag team. In WWE, he won the NXT title, which is basically, if you want to go with it, like, winning the, IWGP Intercontinental, and then he went to Raw, and his first pay-per-view won the Universal title. That's already better than anything he did in Japan.
Yep, and then he got injured.
Speak up.
Then he got injured, sadly.
Yeah, but shit happens, man. He at least won it. He's probably never going to win it again, but he did.
Yeah. You're the first ever. Didn't mean anything, but hey, you're the first ever.
Well, it did establish you don't get rematch clauses.
Yep. Congratulations, you're a trendsetter. A no rematch clause trendsetter.
Alright, nobody gets rematch clauses, but he beat Seth freaking Rollins, and he was hot at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel like with the Shield angle, him and Dean were not doing anything interesting, which I feel like Seth could do. I don't really know what Dean's doing. I think we're all trying to kind of figure that out. Probably WWE's writing team too, but I feel like that maybe their feud will be more interesting now.
Compared to the last time they feuded.
No, they've had good feuds, but I feel like this is a fresh breath of what we could get with the roles reversed. So I have no problem with it, to be honest. It's better than the dude Dean Ambrose. Remember that shit?
Yeah.
The man, the big dog, the dude.
Yeah, this is better.
No, it was the guy, the man, and the dude.
Yeah.
Cringing. Yep. You're scathing promo on Dean Ambrose. He's like, yep, more scathing promo. Yeah, okay. Kick, dirty deeds. That was like every week on SmackDown too.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to what we're saying. So comparatively, the two products, I'm not gonna lie. WCW's pay-per-view did feel a little stronger. And don't get me wrong, because you had a tag team title main event, dude. Come on, tag team title main event competing against a War Games match. WCW had a stronger main event, hands down.
Yes. Yeah. Nothing could top War Games at the time.
No, you can't have a shoddy tag team title finish versus a War Games match.
No. Naturally, people are gonna love War Games. And
the only reason we're comparing two separate shows for the pay-per-views is because we had them back-to-back and they're in the same month. But, WCW, its overall card was probably a little bit weaker. But I feel like towards the end, like the last matches really filled out the card. This was a 7-match card, so match number 4 was directly the mid-card. So, I feel like WCW had more people out there. They did have a couple of matches, but overall, they had good matches. Half of this card was like, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
When you have, I get the story they were telling with Razor Ramon, and I get that. And they're going to do, and I'm not going to spoil that this Dean is going to get something going. But the fact is that this pay-per-view versus the WCW pay-per-view overall, WCW had a stronger Nitro Kickstart pay-per-view. The follow-up Nitro did feel kind of underwhelming unless you were there live.
Yeah, I feel like that's the only way you can get what you're supposed to experience out of it.
Yeah, because WCW...
Because I imagine you're supposed to feel something, but, when you don't, you don't get it unless you're there.
Yeah, WCW had some great matches on Nitro. It just wasn't on the TV part. They cut like I said, Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko. At the time, nobody knew how great they were, and I get Eddie Guerrero was still wearing that fucking singlet that was just the pants and the damn.
That thing.
Yeah, and Dean Malenko was still wearing tights back then. It was not what you know. Like you look at it now and you say, oh, that should have been on the main card. But honestly, think about it. They were trial running them in front of a crowd. They put on a long match. They were entertaining before they started their live section of the show. It was honestly...
They're basically young lions. They're basically what they do with young lions. They put them out there for 10 minutes and show everybody what they can do.
Yeah, and they were also kind of testing the waters to see this. There was no cruiserweight division yet. So they didn't know what these guys were going to be. I mean, who the hell knew Eddie Guerrero in 10 years would be the world's a fucking legend and WWE champion? Who the hell knew that Dean Malenko was going to put on some of the best technical wrestling matches you've seen on a WCW Nitro or on a pay-per-view? They didn't know that.
Nobody did. Nobody did.
No, nobody knew. You can't sit here... I mean, personally, I think they should have been on the card, but I know what these two go on to do. Watching it fresh, you don't know what these guys are doing. You don't know who the hell an Eddie Guerrero is. You know who the Guerrero name is, but you don't know who Dean who. You don't know who this guy is. So let's give him a break. Overall, Nitro versus Raw. Raw was...
Let's go Raw.
Yeah, Raw was solid. It had more of a solid card. It did have some, it did have some filler in there, but it was a pretty solid card overall. Pay-per-view wise, definitely going to go WCW right now.
Yeah, because nothing beats War Games. It's War Games.
Oh, bullshit. There's a lot of things that beat War Games, but at this time... WWF could have done something different, but like I said, this is pre-Attitude, so they're transitioning, and you have a War Games main event versus a tag team title main event where you have a replacement for a guy who hadn't showed up, and then he shows up and interrupts the match for a freaking questionable finish that they're going to settle on Raw. I mean, really, there's no comparison. The War Games match takes the cake, and there were a bunch of fillers in the War Games, but you had Sting, you had Flair, you had Luger, Hogan. I mean, you had name value in your pay-per-view. Whatever the hell WWF was doing, I mean, you had Shawn Michaels and Diesel versus Owen Hart and Yokozuna. That should have been...
Maybe Brett.
No, Brett wasn't involved in this one.
Oh.
But that should have been those four names, Yokozuna and Owen Hart. I mean, yes, Owen Hart was still a lower upper carder at the time, and you had Shawn, who was like a upper mid carder, maybe lower upper carder, and you had Diesel, who was definitely a mid carder, going up to like upper mid carder. So these guys all were like pretty big faces going to be or faces of the company. We all know how popular Diesel and Razor Ramon were. So you really can't say anything about Diesel here. Diesel and Shawn Michaels should have been up on the card, and they were the main event. This was the main event, and you give us a shitty finish. WCW's pay-per-view may have some shitty filler matches, but at least they had a good main event with a strong finish. So, I'm not going to say anything, man. I enjoyed this show thoroughly. And this week, pay-per-views go to WCW. This month, WCW pay-per-view win. Last month, but this episode, Raw is now 1-2 for Raw versus Nitro.
Agreed.
And we are going to write down who won in what month. September is the month of Raw, is the month of Nitro so far. So we will be seeing another episode of Nitro and Raw going head to head. But other than that, man, this has pretty much been the Wrestlution Retro show. So do you have any other things you want to throw in there, or do you want to get final thoughts and get the hell up out of here?
I'm good. I'm good if you're good.
All right, let's get to these final thoughts, man. Like I said, pay-per-view wise, Nitro or WWF. Raw versus Nitro.
Yeah.
Right now, I got to give Nitro the 2-1 so far. We'll see how it shapes up next week.
Yeah.
Post In Your House 3. So.
Yeah, let's see.
Isaac.
See what they got. Yes.
Final thoughts, my friend.
Final thoughts are simple. Y'all keep it tight. Stay golden. You'll get the results of tomorrow for Impact.
And also, Golden Report. But also, I just want to add in my final thoughts. Pretty much, with like Nitro, you don't know where they're leading because there was no story, like ongoing storyline going yet because it's week 1. You had Ric Flair and Paul Orndorff on the card, so I guess we're gonna see where the storylines go because a lot of those main eventers got the week off.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. And, we know on Raw we're going to get the controversial answer to British Bulldog and Owen Hart and Yokozuna with Diesel and HBK to settle the tag title issue. So, that's what we're looking forward to on episode 4 of Wrestlution Wretro. We don't know, like I said, we don't know what Nitro is going to do, but we know what direction Raw is going in because they did leave us on a what are we going to do? Because the legal man didn't show, so they replaced him. Then the legal man came back and got pinned and all this.
Right.
So, controversial finish. Hindsight today, it's not as controversial. Back then, fans had a passion for getting a clean finish, and this is some of that bullshit that's pre-Attitude Era. So, thinking back then, it's like, okay, well, it's a cliffhanger. So we have a reason to tune into the new month to reset the board and watch Raw.
Yeah, we don't have a choice. Well, we do, but still.
Yeah, you can go watch Nitro. Go not watch Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko. Okay. Well, other than that, ladies and gentlemen, and Lloyd, and hello, James. We're about to close that. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and download this thing and send it to YouTube and Twitter. Thank you for tuning in. Stay golden. Walk with Elias. Be sure you tune in tomorrow at 12 a.m. or 11 a.m., 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Check out Golden Report with the ruler of all.
One more thing. During the show, I'll be calling out live results of Crown Jewel, just for those listening.
All right.
Just saying.
Stay golden.
Yeah, stay golden, people.
All right.
No blood money. Stay away from blood. Here, stay golden and stay away from blood money.
Stay away from champions that like to hide away on boats.
Yeah. Stay away from contracts that are legally binding. They'll force you to compete in uncomfortable positions.
Stay away from anyone who's not Carlito Cool.
That too.
All right. Thank you all. Y'all